Hello everybody, Kyle here. It's the end of the year, so it's time for me to reveal my top 10 favorite movies of 2023. And I want to acknowledge the fact that I haven't seen Past Lives, Ferrari, Anatomy of a Fall, Zone of Interest yet. I didn't get to see them in time to make this video, so those films might be in this top 10 when I do eventually see them. I want to give some shout outs to some honorable mentions. First, I want to say that I thought Scream 6 was, in my eyes, I think the best Scream movie of the entire franchise. I love what Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega brought to the film and the whole cast, but I just really love the sister dynamic. I thought it was like the most emotional of the Scream films. I also really loved Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I thought it was a really entertaining Transformers film that gave us a lot more of the Autobots. We got to meet the Maximals. We even got some of the Terracons, and Anthony Ramos, Dominique Fishback were really, really good lead human characters. I also loved Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I found the story to resonate with me. It's about a young teenager, she is a teenager in middle school trying to figure out like where she belongs, her faith, and I found that Rachel McAdams gave one of the best performances of the year and deserves all the awards acclaim. So those are my honorable mentions. I think it's been a really good year for films, but I think my top 10 lists was, at least in my eyes, the final collection of my favorite movies of the year. So here they are. My number 10 is The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Directed by Francis Lawrence. Francis Lawrence returns after making the other Hunger Games movies. I read this novel by Suzanne Collins back in 2020 when it came out, and it is my second favorite Hunger Games book. Coincidentally enough, this is my second favorite Hunger Games movie, right behind the first film. Though it's funny because the original books, I actually prefer Catching Fire the book over the original Hunger Games, but the movies are a bit different. I also have to give a shout out to the cast of this film because I think that Tom Blythe is a remarkable Coriolanus Snow. He brings humanity to this character. He really makes him a fully fleshed out character, and I think at the end of the day, one of the best cinematic villains. I think that Rachel Zegler is mesmerizing as Lucy Gray Baird. She really gets to diversify her skills as an actress because she's not Maria. She's not Anthea from Shazam! Fury of the Gods. It's a very different character that Rachel Zegler's played, but also what's really good is she's tapping into like her country type of singing, which isn't, if you follow Rachel Zegler, like that is something that's a bit different. You don't really hear her singing that way when she does like her covers on YouTube. So it was really fun to see her play this like Dolly Parton-esque character. It's really, really a great performance. And I think their relationship, I think Tom and Rachel's chemistry is just on point and one of the driving forces behind why this movie is so fun to watch. I think the supporting cast is great. Viola Davis, Josh Andres Rivera, and I think the action scenes are shot really well. I think Francis Lawrence did a really great job at adapting this book. So that is my number 10. My number 9 is John Wick Chapter 4. I love the action in this movie. It is arguably my favorite. I wouldn't say maybe it's my favorite action movie, but it is definitely one of the best action films I've ever seen. And especially given that I saw it in a theater. It's a theater experience I'll never forget. I can still hear like the sound design. I mean, like there's this one shot in the opening of the film where he like punches a wall, and I like it is so loud in the theater I saw it in, but it was so good. I think that it does a really great job at introducing some of the new characters in the franchise. Um, Donnie Yen as Kane is really good. Rina, I want to say Sarayama as Akira is badass, and I really want to see more of her in the future. And Bill Skarsgård as the Marquis, this French villain, is just so dastardly and evil, but I think Bill Skarsgård brings a lot to the performance. So I think the movie's really good. I think for me though, I I do prefer the original John Wick. In my eyes, it is a masterpiece, and I think that the original John Wick was way more personal than some of these other John Wick movies have become. And I think if there's one thing to prevent this movie, despite it being one of my favorite, action films of all time, and that's why it's on this list, I do wish that there was more sense of finality to the film, because I just feel like they will make a sequel to this, and it kind of, I mean, you don't need a sequel, so it doesn't feel like, say, Avengers Endgame, where I feel like the character stories are over in that movie, compared to this, where I don't really feel that sense of finality that I think the movie is trying to go for. So, my number 8 movie of the year is a movie I didn't actually know how I would, react towards it, because as much as I do love this director, the runtime and the subject matter was a little bit questionable. I didn't know if it would be too hard to watch, but I just was blown away, and that film is Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. I think that Lily Gladstone truly, embraces this role as Molly and brings a voice to many people that have not been represented on film before and in Hollywood to this degree, where I think that Lily Gladstone and what this movie does will offer even more opportunities for more Native American actors and more Native American stories to be told in Hollywood. And I think that she is just so good, but she also has this sense of pain that you cannot help but feel. It is a heartbreaking film. It is a disturbing film, but I think Scorsese so deftly crafts it together to make it something that you can't take your eyes off of, no matter how much you want to. And for a movie that is 3.5 hours long, um, I thought the pacing was really good. Thelma Schoonmaker really brings together this movie into a really, satisfying pace. And I was watching it in the theater. I never once, was like, when is this going to end? Because I think it truly captures the time of America at the time, but also it shows you some of like the spiritual elements. Like there's this incredible sequence when a character passes away and their ancestors are there to welcome them into the afterlife, and it's this very moving sequence with very little sound. It's really really well done, and I think I honestly think it's one of Leonardo DiCaprio's best performances. He is so unlikable as Ernest, but it's in a way where it's like, this is a character that, you know, is interesting, and not, a character that you don't care about. Like, you need to have someone, I feel in this movie, you need to understand where some of this evil takes root, so that way we don't repeat the past. And there's a lot of like scenes in this movie where characters are ignorant, or they're trying to not intervene. And with all the stuff going on in like the Middle East right now, it's a really um topical type of film. Like, it's going to be timeless, but right now it is really timely because it just shows you, like, we must not be complacent. We must, pay attention to what's going on, so that way we do not repeat the same mistakes of our past. So it's a really, really, really great film. My number 7 movie of this year is a movie I saw a couple days ago, and to give you some perspective, the director of this film, which is Poor Things, the director of this film, Yorgos Lanthimos, I saw The Favorite, and it is one of my least favorite films of all time. So I was very worried about how I would feel towards this movie, and thankfully and surprisingly, it is one of my favorite movies of the year. It is wildly imaginative. It has some of the most fun and crazy characters you'll see this year, led by Emma Stone as Bella Baxter. Honestly, I can't think of a performance in recent memory that had me so enamored and also filled with joy watching, because it takes a really great actor to make the viewer be like, wow, I can't believe what you're doing. I'm just speechless. I'm in awe of your performance. And that is what Emma Stone does in this movie. She fully transforms as this character and does some of the craziest stuff. One of these things is just throwing like glass around, like destroying glass like she's a child, which she is, because she has the brain of a child slash baby in her head. And that's all I'll say, because I don't want to, spoil this movie, because I went in cold and it was really surprising. It has a lot of great commentary on like social structures, has a lot of great commentary on, you know, like nature versus nurture, but who are we? What is a god? There's a lot of really heady commentary to be had in this film, and I think it's just beautiful to watch. The production design's amazing, and it's really a movie that I could not help but be entertained from beginning to end, and I was laughing so much throughout. It's hilarious. And also a little bit disturbing. So some of the stuff here is disturbing to watch, but mostly it is a really funny movie. Speaking of funny films, I want to pivot towards my number 6, and that is James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Now, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. I have a poster in my room here. Thor: The Dark World, remember, is the very first appearance of the Guardians of the Galaxy characters in the MCU, when Lady Sif and Volstagg went to the Collector's room and gave him the ether / reality stone. That is where we first saw it. So props to Thor: The Dark World, even though many people don't like that movie. But Guardians of the Galaxy is one of my favorite movies. I also really love Volume 2. And Volume 3, while I wouldn't say it is my favorite of the trilogy, I think it is a very fitting conclusion. I think that it delivers on giving all of these characters a final arc. I really love what it does with Peter and Gamora because it doesn't erase what happens in the it doesn't erase what happens in Infinity War. However, it does make it where you can feel the weight of what happens in that movie and it can still be felt in here, and I think that was a really smart move. It is the story of Rocket Raccoon, like James Gunn repeatedly has said for many years, even when the script was all what remained of this movie until he was rehired. Thank goodness. And the score, I will say the score, I do wish they used more of Tyler Bates' theme, but the song choice is impeccable. I love Florence and the Machine, and Dog Days Are Over is an, you know, unforgettable song, but the way that it is used in this movie had me in tears, and it is, I think, the most I've cried at a movie this entire year. To see an end to this like franchise of these characters that I've grown up with, it was just so beautiful to watch, and it also has a really really enticing villain in the High Evolutionary. So that is a very very good thing when it comes to the Marvel movies. The Marvel movies sometimes have struggled, especially this year, with some of their villains. So I think that High Evolutionary was a definite standout. Speaking of Marvel, let's also pivot to my fifth favorite movie of the year, that being Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse Part 1. I love Into the Spider-Verse. It is one of my favorite um, animated films, and I think for me, what really works with this film is how it develops the characters from the first film. I think that both Spider-Man Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen are developed so beautifully, and we really get a sense of, time has passed. These are also, you know, teenagers that are becoming, young adults, and that is something that we don't really see much of in like animated films, especially like ones made by the major studios, like say a Disney or a Illumination. Most of the time, it's focused on whether it's non-human characters or such, but it's really great to see a movie about these young adults, and it's also great to see a Spider-Man film where, as my friend said, my friend Keshin, shout out to Keshin, this is a really great Spider-Man movie that showcases the love of Spider-Man comics, movies, TV, games, whereas like No Way Home is really great on showcasing the love of Spider-Man movies. And I think that is a really, really great comment because that is what this movie is. It does everything. Every Spider-Man that you can imagine is either referenced or shown in this, movie, and it doesn't outweigh the dramatic story happening. It actually factors into it with the whole canon, and that introduces new characters, and we get Spider-Man 2099, we get Jessica Drew, we get Spider-Man India, or Spider-Man um um I almost said Spider-Man Punk, Spider-Punk, and it's just such a great movie, and every time I watch it, it gets better and better. Okay, so my number 4 movie is Alexander Payne's The Holdovers. The Holdovers, I thought, was a remarkable film that feels like, I guess you can say, um it's like it's a Christmas film. That's what you would call it. But what I think really works are, one, its screenplay, um, by David Hemmingson, and also I think it really works well because of Paul Giamatti, Dominic Sessa, and Divine Joy Randolph, which for me, they, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, they are like this team unit that I want to go on every adventure with them. You know, like they are so much fun to watch. And especially Dominic Sessa, who, it's his first film. It says introducing Dominic Sessa. He just is so good in this movie. I mean, he delivers a great performance. Paul Giamatti is also really good. Um, and I really love how the film portrays kind of people that are going through a hard time in life, but it is kind of like looking in on how much we take for granted those that come into our lives and how they can change us. Because I mean, even personally, me, when I have made friends, sometimes I've made friends in the most unlikely of places, and I still stick with those friends. And that this is a film about friendship. It's a film about teachers, which I personally really love. My mom was a substitute teacher, and I have like a really you know, huge respect for teachers, and this film is a very huge love letter to teachers, and how the good teachers are the ones that we should care about and remember. So it is a great film. Holdovers in my top 4. And now to my top 3. So my number 3 film is half of the Barbenheimer phenomena, and that is Oppenheimer. And Cillian Murphy in this movie, need I say more? He is the movie. He is the title. And he finally gets to shine, unlike he's ever shown before, even though we all know how great of an actor Cillian Murphy is. Christopher Nolan is my favorite director, but what he does with this movie is that he kind of taps into some things he's never done before. One being a historical film with very little action. He is really focused on these characters, and it is his pacing, it is his editing, it is his just precise way of knowing where everything in a film should be. He has no deleted scenes. He knows exactly where the beginning's going to go and where the end's going to go. And you can tell the film is wonderfully paced for 3 hours. The cast is magnificent. Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt. I mean, I can just go on and on. And it really feels like, unlike other movies, I mean, I just never found it boring. And it's a film that could easily be boring under lesser hands, but like, it is a film that really captures, I think, a fear that everyone shares. And it's also based on a true story that we must never forget. And it doesn't try and, denote what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What it does is it shows you how us as Americans did something so horrendous and at what cost. And I feel like Oppenheimer, at the end of the day, he questions in this movie, what have I done? What have we done? And I just really think it is a remarkable and unforgettable film with an incredible score by Ludwig Göransson. So Oppenheimer, definitely one of my favorite movies of the year. And my number 2 movie is the other half of Barbenheimer, and that is Barbie. And Barbie is, what I have to say, this generation's Star Wars, this generation's Matrix, this generation's insert this or that. It is a cultural phenomenon. It is one of the best movies of the year for me. It was my top one. It was my number 1 movie, but then it got booted out. But at number 2, I've seen this movie like 4 or 5 times. It is so good. Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach come up with this wildly inventive and emotional screenplay that gets into the heart of Barbie, but also gets into the heart of why Barbie? Why does Barbie exist? Why do we exist as humans? Why does Ken exist? What are what are the differences between men and women in this society? Why should there be more attention towards men? Why should there be more attention or less attention towards women? There's gender, there's all types of ages. There's so many ideas that I think are so beautifully put together. We have a trans actress playing Barbie. We have a um um well I mean we have we have all types of people and all types of representation so beautifully showcased in this film. It is just an incredible film, incredible production, and people get to finally see themselves on screen as Barbies. We have a Barbie that is in a wheelchair. We have a Barbie that um is not what do they call it? A weird Barbie. That is her name, and she's one of my favorite characters, Kate McKinnon. But they have this incredible story for her where it's like maybe those that are weird deserve to be people that we don't treat as weird or other. We have to really show that we should look inside of ourselves and we should say to ourselves, how are we treating our friends? How are we treating those that love us? Should we treat them better? Should we be more kind? Should we be more open? And that's what I think Weird Barbie's place in this movie is, because she's a Barbie that was always neglected, always thrown around, and that is another amazing storyline for this movie. I could just go on, but it's so good. Margot Robbie, incredible. Ryan Gosling, so funny. Yeah, it's Barbie, and it is one of the best films of the year. So, with that being said, I want to say my favorite movie of the year. And this is a film that I did not even realize was coming out until a couple months ago when the trailer released. And that is Takashi Yamazaki's Godzilla Minus One. When I was a little kid, one of my very first toys was a Godzilla bendable, and I've liked Godzilla ever since. But I never got around to seeing a Godzilla movie aside from Ishiro Honda's 1954 Godzilla, Gojira, that really connected with me. And then I see this film, and it is my personal favorite Godzilla movie. It has incredible characters. There is the main character, Shikishima, played by Kamiki Rinosuke. There's also his girlfriend in the film, Noriko, played by Hamabe Minami. And I think their relationship is really touching, and it goes into the aftermath of World War II, how it affected Japan. It goes into the relations between the US and the Soviets at the time. It really goes into what is it like for a soldier after the war. It goes into his PTSD, and it uses Godzilla as this, all-encompassing beast, this metaphor of danger on the horizon, but we must work together, not tear each other apart in order to defeat what's coming. And it's such a transcending film. I think that generations will be talking about this. It is a film that makes Toho really take a handle on the Godzilla IP, because it is theirs, but they haven't been able, I think, to really get to the, Godzilla as this international icon in the movies for quite a while, partly thanks to this legendary contract that happened. But we finally have a Godzilla movie come out from his home, and now it is beautiful. It is so exciting. The action is reminiscent of movies like Dunkirk, Jaws, Jurassic Park, and the characters are so rich. We have unbelievable visual effects that are actually done by the director, and we even get to see Godzilla eating people, which is something that I've never seen before. We get to see the atomic breath. We get to see so many good scenes that, I mean, this whole sequence in a plane that I actually saw 2 times in Screen X is like straight out of Dunkirk as he's flying through and trying to navigate around Godzilla. And the score, it just gets your blood pumping. What can I say? It is truly my favorite film of the year, and I cannot wait to watch it again. It is unbelievable. I'm so happy that a Godzilla film has come out, and it's a film that I think a lot of people are getting to watch more recently now with all the word of mouth. And I really hope it gets a lot of awards attention, at least for VFX. And yeah, so that is my top 10. Let me know what you think, and let me know your top 10 if you have one. Everyone has a different top 10 list, and I'm intrigued to hear, everyone else. But thank you so much for watching this video, and have a great day. Bye, guys.